Coming to you live from Akasapuri, I'm Shuhaida Arifin and this is News at 10. In our top stories tonight, special EC meeting to discuss Padang Serai election. Agencies told to coordinate flood victims' rescue operations. M. Karupaya, the Pakatan Harapan candidate for Padang Serai seeking re-election in the general election this Saturday, has died. He was 69. His death was confirmed by PH Secretary General Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail. According to PKR incumbent Kanga MP Nur Amin Ahmad, the party was told by Karupaya's family that the latter was hospitalised for a fall and subsequently died. He said Karu was present during Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's visit to Kulim and Padang Serai on 14 November. He then fell down after the event and was taken to the hospital. Datuk Seri Saifuddin said Karupaya was a former Warrant Officer 1 of the Malaysian Armed Forces and was head of the Padang Serai PKR division. According to the Article 11, Subsection 6 of the Elections Conduct of Elections Regulations 1981, the death of a candidate between nomination and polling would require the Election Commission to start the process anew. The Election Commission EC will hold a special meeting on Friday to set key dates for conducting Padang Serai parliamentary seat contest. EC Secretary Datuk Ikmaruddin Ishak said a statement would be issued after the meeting. In a statement, he said EC has received the writ of election, which was returned by the returning officer for the constituency, spelling out the facts concerning the death of the candidate. The Commission also conveyed its condolences to the family of Karupaya and hoped that they would be strong in facing their loss. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob today said matters on the UMNO election should not be discussed during the campaign period as the full focus is to ensure the victory of Barisan Nasional in the 15th general election. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri, who is also UMNO Vice President, said whatever the rank in the party would not matter if BN loses in the election as UMNO still has sufficient time to hold the party election. Apart from that, the Premier also said he was not UMNO President when he became the Prime Minister and never used the power of the Prime Minister to intervene in party matters including issues on posts.
Saya boleh saja minta tolong ROS, tolak saja usul daripada UMNO supaya saya boleh bertanding lawan Presiden. Tetapi apa yang kita lihat adalah perkara itu tidak berlaku.
The Premier said the matter was in line with his stand that he puts the interest of the party above his own, besides not wanting a split in the party due to the party election being held before the general election. In July, UMNO Secretary General Datuk Seri Ahmad Maslan said ROS had approved an application related to the amendment of the party's constitution so that elections in the party at all levels are held no more than 6 months after the general election. On another note, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said voters should not be influenced by the predictions or findings of independent survey bodies on the sentiment of voters' acceptance of Barisan Nasional BN, which they claim was trailing in the 15th general election GE15 as they are only propagandas of certain parties.
Jangan kita terpengaruh. Ini merupakan saiwa perang psikologi daripada parti pembangkang, iaitu untuk menarik golongan atas pagar yang masih belum membuat keputusan apabila tengok seolah-olah mereka menang, jadi akhirnya akan berpindah kepada mereka.
Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri, who's also the BN Bera parliamentary seat candidate, said for the final phase of the GE15 campaign, the BN machinery needs to further promote the offers outlined in the manifesto, especially on social media, to ensure that the people remain supportive of the coalition. He said the effort to sell BN products, besides working hard to counter and explain to the people regarding accusations or propaganda thrown by the opposition, needs to be strengthened, including on social media, because the platform involves a lot of young people. Gabungan Parti Sarawak GPS has no political affiliation with parties in Peninsular Malaysia. Coalition Chairman Datuk Patinggi Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg stressed that the coalition needs to win big in the parliamentary election to ensure Sarawak has a strong voice in Parliament. According to him, while GPS is not connected to parties in the peninsula, they are the ones who will need to rely on GPS. He pointed out that with only 31 parliamentary seats in Sarawak, GPS cannot form the federal government even if it wins all the seats.
Kita dari sudut nasional, dua-dua, kita nak 31. Maka siapa nak bekerja dengan Sarawak, mesti tahu apa nak dibuat untuk Sarawak.
However, he said no single party or coalition would likely win the 222 parliamentary seats needed to form the federal government. He said this at the launch of the Sarawak Ku Sayang program in Siniawan near Kuching today. Tan Sri Abang Johari said because GPS has a strong voice in Parliament, the Malaysia Agreement 1963 became part of the federal constitution. Human Resources Minister Datuk Seri M. Saravanan has urged the private sector to observe the public holidays this Friday and Saturday to give employees the opportunity to fulfill their responsibilities as voters. Elaborating further through a statement released today, the minister said this was to fulfill the purpose and intention of giving the public holiday by the federal government in encouraging Malaysians to vote in conjunction with the GE15 this Saturday. He underscored that the public holidays were declared under Section 8 Holidays Act 1951, Act 369, which is a general holiday allocated to workers in the private sector pursuant to Section 60D, Subsection 1, Subsection B of the Employment Act 1955. He also noted that according to these provisions, employers can substitute any other day in lieu of a paid public holiday for employees. Therefore, Datuk Sri Saravanan said, employees are required to inform employees whether to choose the dates of 18 and 19 November as a public holiday or replace them with other dates. He added that if there's no replacement days, employers who work on those dates are eligible to receive the salary rate for public holidays. Meanwhile, the Johor and Kelantan governments today announced that this Sunday is a replacement holiday in both states in conjunction with the polling day for the GE15 to be held this Saturday. In Johor, Menteri Besar Dato' On Hafiz Ghazi, in a posting on his official Facebook, said 20th November is declared a holiday on the consent of the Sultan of Johor, Sultan Ibrahim Almarhum Sultan Iskandar, to replace the Friday public holiday with Sunday. He said that after getting the consent of the Sultan of Johor, the state government agreed to replace the public holiday with a substitute holiday on 20th November, which is Sunday. Dato' On Hafiz said the replacement holiday was also given as a sign of appreciation to electors for going out to fulfill their responsibility as voters. He noted that every vote from the people will ensure that the process of democracy and national development continues to grow, and this is for the well-being of the people of Johor and Malaysia in general for the next 5 years. In Kelantan, Menteri Besar Dato' Ahmad Yaakob said the decision was made in line with the announcement by Prime Minister Dato' Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob last Monday. He said the State Legislative Council, which met today, agreed to declare the 2 days as public holidays in Kelantan. He also said that given that the public holidays fall on a weekend in Kelantan, which is Friday and Saturday, then the following day, Sunday, 20th November, will be a public holiday. Dato' Ahmad said the matter was in line with a State Service Circular number 7 of 1996. A local man was arrested for allegedly distributing campaign leaflets for the GE-15 at the Lumut Naval Base. Perak Police Chief Datuk Muhammad Yusri Hassan Basri said that police received a report from the Navy's Provost Patrol Team, Protella, as soon as the Protella team made the arrest. Commenting further on the matter through a statement released, Datuk Muhammad Yusri said the individual involved distributed leaflets of a political party in Block A8 of the Royal Malaysian Navy Family Quarters RKTLDM, which has been gazetted as a restricted area. He said police have opened investigation papers according to Section 24B of the Election Offences Act 1954. According to him, campaigning should not be carried out in places gazetted as restricted areas as stipulated in the Protected Areas and Protected Places Act 1959 Act 298. The State Police Chief further advised all contesting parties to comply with all existing rules and laws during the GE-15 campaign period. The Lumut Parliamentary Constituency has 8,327 early voters, consisting of military personnel and their spouses, and of that number, 787 people are postal voters. Still to come, APEC members to ramp up cross-border travels. Stay tuned. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah has reminded all agencies to focus on the coordination of aid and rescue operations for flood victims to ensure that it can be implemented effectively, accurately and quickly. In an Istana Negara Facebook post, Al-Sultan Abdullah said that good coordination between all agencies was important to avoid overlapping duties during the implementation of rescue operations and aid missions to flood victims. Al-Sultan Abdullah said this at a flood preparation briefing session by government agencies at Istana Negara today. Present at the briefing session were Chief Secretary to the Government, Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali, Inspector General of Police, Tan Sri Akrisani Abdullah Sani, Irrigation and Drainage Department Director General, Dato' Engineer Dr. Mat Nasir Mat Noh, and Prime Minister's Department Senior Deputy Secretary General, Dato' Salahuddin Al-Yubi Zakaria. Malaysian Fire Rescue Department Director General Datuk Seri Muhammad Hamdan Wahid and National Disaster Management Agency NADMA Deputy Director General Datuk Khairul Shahril Idrus were also present. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC member economies are ramping up effort to revitalise cross-border travel by tackling the lingering uncertainties faced by travellers as the COVID-19 pandemic enters its third year. Through a report, COVID-19 and cross-border mobility in the APEC region, addressing uncertainties at the border, APEC's Safe Passage Task Force put forward recommendations to drive the forum's work on passenger movements in the region, looking into issues at and behind border that can be addressed to facilitate travel and tourism in the region. APEC Policy Support Unit study estimates the economic costs of the resulting loss in cross-border mobility at $1.2 trillion in 2020. Despite the upturn in international tourist arrivals in 2021 for the rest of the world, the report said the number of arrivals was still 64.3% lower than in 2019, while the number of arrivals in the APEC region was 85.0% lower in 2021 compared to 2019. The report also emphasises the importance of providing travellers clear information about entry requirements relating to COVID-19, and the information needs to be put up to date and access should be easy. A General Manager to Pelaburan Hartanah Berhad has been charged with abetting another individual in cheating the company in relation to a shopping mall development project in Kuala Terengganu. Khairul Anwar Abdul Samad, 48, pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of offence framed under Section 420 of the Penal Code today when the charges were read to him before Sessions Court Judge Rozilah Saleh this morning. The charges carry a maximum jail term of 10 years and whipping and fine if found guilty. He was charged of abetting PHB consultant Muhammad Azhari Cik Omar by signing confirmation for payment claim documents for Gafis M. Sendirian Berhad worth 46 million ringgit, of which 1.2 million ringgit were claims for factory acceptance testing materials for the project, including booster and pneumatic pump, chiller and condenser pump that was never used in the project. Deputy Public Prosecutor Ahmad Akram Garib prosecuted, while the accused was represented by lawyer Muhammad Fikah Sanusi. Justice Rosila said 60,000 ringgit bail for Khairul Anwar and fixed November 25th for case remention. Yesterday, 2 individuals, including Muhammad Azhari, were charged at Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court in relation to the same monetary claims made for the shopping mall development project. G20 green lights a Bali declaration, that and more coming up in the foreign segment. Indonesia's president said that negotiations for a joint G20 summit declaration were extremely difficult, but hailed the leaders' agreement. President Joko Widodo hosted 2 days of talks on the resort island of Bali that were overshadowed by the war in Ukraine before passing the baton to next year's host, India. The Indonesian leader said the most debated paragraph in the declaration's text was the one focused on Moscow's war in Ukraine.
Diperdebatkan adalah penyikapan terhadap perang di Ukraina. Diskusi mengenai hal ini berlangsung sangat-sangat alot sekali dan akhirnya para pemimpin G20 menyepakati isi deklarasi, yaitu condemnation perang di Ukraina karena telah melanggar batas wilayah, melanggar integritas wilayah.
Speaking at the G20 closing ceremony, the Indonesian president said that even though the discussion was protracted, the Bali Declaration was reached by consensus. Widodo then handed over the G20 chair to New Delhi, which maintains strong economic ties with Moscow, at a ceremony with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak today accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of launching indiscriminate attacks on civilians in Ukraine. Speaking at a news conference on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali, Sunak criticized Russia for firing missiles at Ukraine just as the G20 met to seek a resolution to the war.
While other world leaders were working together to tackle the greatest challenges our people face, Putin was launching indiscriminate attacks on civilians in Ukraine. In the wake of these attacks, today we held an urgent meeting of allies to underscore our solidarity with Ukraine and Poland. We should all be clear, none of this would be happening if it weren't for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is the cruel and unrelenting reality of Putin's war. As long as it goes on, it poses a threat to our security and that of our allies. And as long as it goes on, it will continue to devastate the global economy.
Meanwhile, Poland's military was on high alert today after a deadly missile strike on a village near the border with war-ravaged Ukraine. Poland's President Andrzej Duda said there was no clear evidence of who fired the missile that killed the 2 people in the southeastern village of Przewodów near the border with Ukraine. He also said the missile was most probably Russian-made. US President Joe Biden said it was unlikely the missile had been fired from Russia, while France urged utmost caution in identifying who was behind the blast. Polish authorities said Moscow's ambassador has been summoned to provide immediate detailed explanations, and the military had been put on heightened alert after an emergency National Security Council meeting. Biden spoke by phone with Duda, offering full US support for and assistance with Poland's investigation. The two leaders agreed to remain in close touch to determine appropriate next steps as the investigation proceeds. NASA's towering next-generation moon rocket blasted off from Florida today on its debut flight, a crewless voyage inaugurating the U.S. Space Agency's Artemis exploration program 50 years after the final Apollo moon mission. The 32-story Space Launch System SLS rocket surged off the launch pad from the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral at 1:47 a.m. EST to send its Orion capsule on a 3-week test journey. About 90 minutes after launch, the rocket's upper stage fired thrusters for a trans-lunar injection burned, propelling Orion out of Earth orbit on course for the moon. That put the capsule on track for a 25-day flight that will bring it to within 97 kilometers of the lunar surface before sailing some 64,000 kilometers beyond the moon and back to Earth. Liftoff came on the third attempt at launching the long-delayed multi-billion-dollar rocket after 10 weeks beset by numerous technical mishaps, back-to-back hurricanes, and 2 excursions trundling the spacecraft out of its hangar to the launch pad. Dubbed Artemis 1, the mission marked the first flight for the combined SLS rocket and Orion capsule. It also signals a major change in direction for NASA's post-Apollo human spacelift program, after decades focused on low Earth orbit with space shuttles and the International Space Station. MSN confident of a better athletes' performance at next SEA Games. Stay with us. The National Sports Council MSN is optimistic that the national contingent will be able to achieve better results at the 2023 SEA Games in Phnom Penh, Cambodia compared to the edition in Hanoi, Vietnam last May. MSN Deputy Director General Strategic Suhardi Alia said that the national contingent have already made preliminary preparations, including carrying out the selection of athletes in March 2020 to face the biennial games scheduled to take place from 5th to 17th May next year. At the Cambodia 2023 SEA Games Phase 1 Athletes Assembly held in Kuala Lumpur today, Suhardi also expects the medal target to be announced only a month before the 32nd edition begins. At the 31st SEA Games in Hanoi, Malaysia managed to surpass the target of 36 gold, 35 silver and 75 bronze medals by winning 39, 45, 90 medals, thus finishing in 6th place overall. In the meantime, Suhardi said today's gathering of athletes was more focused on providing motivation in addition to explaining aspects of sports science to help athletes prepare to shoulder the country's challenge in Cambodia. Meanwhile, MSN Athletes Division Director Jeffrey Ngadirin said the move to highlight athletes under 23 in the B category was made to give them useful exposure. He said this considering that the group is expected to be the country's main support group in the next 2 editions of the SEA Games, namely in Bangkok in 2025 and Kuala Lumpur in 2027. Winger Arif Aiman Muhammad Hanapi scored the only goal for Johor Takzim JDT in their 1-0 win over Sabah in a highly charged Malaysia Cup semi-final first leg clash at the Likas Stadium last night. A total of 11 yellow cards, 7 to Sabah players and 4 to JDT players, and 1 red card were flashed in the game as the Southern Tigers take a slim lead into the return leg at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium in Iskandar Putri this Sunday. The Southern Tigers, who are the season's Super League champions, came to Kota Kinabalu gunning for victory, and it showed as they began the game in an aggressive fashion. JDT's prolific striker Buxton Da Silva sounded an early warning when he let fly a screamer as early as in the 3rd minute, forcing Sabah goalkeeper Damian Lim to push it out. The visitors continued to go on the offensive and after several near misses found a breakthrough when Arif Aiman beat 4 Sabah players before firing a left-footed shot from outside outside the box in the 34th minute for his first goal in the Malaysia Cup campaign. The Southern Tigers had a good chance to double the score after the break, but Buxton fluffed his line when his weak spot kick in the 59th minute was easily saved by Damian before Muhammad Feroz was given his marching orders in the 73rd minute after being shown a second yellow card for a foul. Moving on to tennis, Casper Ruud beat American Taylor Fritz in their ATP Finals round-robin watch in Turin yesterday, which also guaranteed that teenager Carlos Alcaraz will end the year as world number 1. The Norwegian won the first set 6-3, but Fritz responded to take the second, and it was anyone's match in the third set tiebreak when Ruud let a 5-1 lead slip away and an energized Fritz levelled at 6-6 in their first career meeting. But Ruud kept his composure and sealed the 6-3, 4-6, 7-6 win on his third match point to reach the semi-final of the tournament for the second consecutive year. The 19-year-old Alcaraz, who's not competing at the tournament due to an abdominal injury, will be confirmed as the youngest year-end number 1 since the ATP rankings began in 1973. With his 6-3, 6-4 loss earlier to Canada's Auger Aliassime, a record 22 times Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal has now lost 4 successive ATP Tour matches for the first time since 2009. Auger Aliassime, now coached by Nadal's uncle and longtime mentor Tony, who sat in his box, will face Fritz in his final group match with a chance of making the last 4. Although eliminated, Nadal will still play Ruud in the night match on Thursday. Alright, so that ends tonight's edition of News at 10. A reminder for top story, special EC meeting to discuss Padang Serai election. Join us for more updates at 12:30 p.m. tomorrow. Yang SAHIH di RTM, #MyPRU15. I'm Syuhada Arifin. Stay tuned to saluran Berita RTM and goodbye for now.